Hello, this is Femi Akojeno here, John Maxwell Certified Executive Coach. This video that I'm doing with you today is one video I have been looking to do for a while now. It's because of the subject I am addressing. I'm talking to you today about communications. I want to show you some mistakes many people make when they communicate with other people. You know, on a daily basis, we are communicating with people. For some of us, the communication starts from the house. Maybe it's with your spouse, with your children. You're communicating. And then you leave the house, you go to work, you're communicating with your coworkers, with your bosses and supervisors, managers, and coworkers, right? Or in some cases, you leave work, you go to church, or you go to for an extracurricular activity, you are communicating with other people. From time to time, there's a need for you to communicate something, either to someone so that they understand where you're coming from, or sometimes to get them to see your viewpoint. Some other times you're communicating because you want to show them something they have done wrong. And so you want them to be able to really understand you and understand what they've done. I mean, there are many reasons why we are communicating, right? But one thing I will say to you is this: in any form of communication that you're engaging in, you need to always ask yourself, why am I speaking with this person? Why am I communicating with them? Can I ask you a question? Are you communicating to fight? Is your goal to fight? Because if you're communicating to fight, that one doesn't require much effort. You can pretty much open your mouth anyhow and say things anyhow you want to say it. And I'm sure that you get into a fight. But if you're saying to me that, no, I am not communicating to fight, I just want them to understand my viewpoint, then you need to pay attention to what I'm sharing with you today. Maybe you're also communicating because you need somebody to get on the same page with you. Then please pay attention to these tips that I'm going to give you today. Or maybe you are communicating to help somebody, maybe even see their error. Not necessarily to fight them, but you just want them to see their error so that they may do something differently. Well, you need to understand the tips I'll be giving to you today. So please pay attention. I want to share with you on communications by sharing with you about 5 or so mistakes that people make when they are making or when they are engaging in communications with other people. Now, I believe that if you can fix these 5 mistakes, if you can correct them, if you can stop doing them, you'll be having better communications with people around you. So let's go. The first one is this: whenever you are communicating with other people, don't assume that your viewpoint is obvious. Don't assume that your viewpoint is obvious. I remember somebody who, spoke to me a couple of times, and this person will say, you know now, you know now, you know now. And in my head, I'm thinking, I don't know now. I don't know. I don't know. You see, when you assume that your viewpoint is obvious, that is a big mistake. Don't assume that everybody knows what you're talking about. Do you know that there are some people, when they are making maybe a public speech, they also make this mistake? They assume that their audience know what they're talking about. In some cases, they will say some sentences halfway and then expect somehow that their audience will understand what they are saying. I remember being in Nigeria sometime last year, and I met with some university students. And I said to them that many times people make mistakes in communications because in some of the cultures in Nigeria, it's been said over and over that, you say things, your words halfway. And that, normally I should have said this in my language, but since my audience is not Nigerian audience, but global audience, So I'm just interpreting this adage or this saying in the culture. And the saying goes like, it's half talk that you say, maybe to a responsible person. And then once the words, I guess they meditate on it or think about it, then it will become a full talk. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me, because I'm saying to myself, what if this half talk, what if my interpretation of your half talk is a wrong interpretation? Isn't it better that you tell me the full talk, so that you don't leave me to interpret what you're saying, but you explain what you're saying to me, so that you are sure that I will understand what you're saying? So, back to my point. Don't assume that your viewpoint is obvious. Making statements like, obviously, obviously, well, what may be obvious to you is not necessarily obvious to another person. So it's actually better that you state your views completely. Share what you're sharing completely, right? Don't assume that they know. Now, if you ever engage in conversation with me, one thing you'll find out about me is this: I will tell you even what may look so simple. I will still tell you. Why? Because I don't want to assume that you know what I'm talking about. I'll rather tell you so that you hear from me, versus I'm just assuming that you know what I'm talking about. Many, many things have been misunderstood, right? Because we did not fully explain what we are trying to say. And so I want to encourage you to stop this assumption, right? Stop assuming that everybody understands your viewpoint. Can I also remind you that we all grew up differently? We're all from different household, different upbringing. So how I see things from my own household growing up is different from how you see things. How I see life now and how I interpret everything is different from how you interpret everything. So saying that it's obvious is assuming that we're all exactly seeing things alike. And the reality is that we don't. We don't, because we are coming from different backgrounds, different walk of life, and different cultures, right? It's just different. And so it's better to state your entire viewpoint. This and this and this and this is what's going on. And so that the person you are communicating with can understand fully where you're coming from. But if you say something halfway and somehow you expect them to interpret it, you are leaving them to have to assume that they know what you're talking about. And then the worst of that is that you don't even get a feedback. You don't even say, do you understand? Repeat what I just said to me. Now, those of you who do this half thing, right? It's even worse because you don't even get feedbacks. So in your own mind, you thought you have talked halfway, and then you ask them, do you understand? And they too, they nod their head, which is nonsense. Why are you nodding your head? If it's me, I will say, tell me the full thing. I want to hear it fully from you. I don't want to assume what you're telling me. I want to hear it fully from you. So, but people with bad habits, they too will nod their head. Now, they are assuming stuff. Instead of both parties making sure they understand each other, everybody is fooling themselves. One is talking halfway, the other one is nodding like he or she understands. And they've completely misunderstood each other, right? So the best thing to do, state your viewpoint clearly. State it fully. Don't leave it up to anyone to interpret what's in your mind, because you are turning them into a mind reader, and nobody's a mind reader. All right? So it's a mistake many people make. They assume that their viewpoint is obvious. No, your viewpoint is not obvious. We are all different. We all grew up differently, and we all see things differently. So if you want me to understand your viewpoint, you have to explain it to me. Don't expect me to understand your viewpoint. Explain it to me, right? And when you do so, you'll always be sure that you are understood very well. All right? Number two, another mistake that people make is they exaggerate. They exaggerate in their conversations. So they make statements like, you never take the trash out. You never take the trash out. You never say sorry. Or they may make statements like, you're always putting me down. You're always this. You're always that. Now, they exaggerate. Now, let's say it this way. Let's say the person you are talking to and you're telling them, you never apologize. Let's say they've only apologized 20% of the time, even if it is 10% of the time. And then you come and you say, you never apologize. And the reason why you're saying that is because most of the time they don't apologize. However, to make what is 90% of the time and call it 100% of the time, now they're going to defend themselves. They're going to say something like, no, it's not true. It's not true. Now, mind you, you're trying to share something, but instead of getting your point across, because you're already using the wrong way of communication, which is exaggeration, then instead of them understanding what you're saying, they'll be defending themselves. That's why I asked you a question earlier. Whenever you want to communicate, ask yourself, what am I trying to do? Do I want to fight? Is that what I want? Now, if that's what you want, then these mistakes, don't correct them. Just continue to do what you've been doing. You'll continue to have fights. But if you say, you know what, I'm tired. Every time I want to communicate with somebody, it's always turning into a fight. Why is it always a fight? Well, guess what? I want you to pay attention to what I'm sharing with you today so that you can begin to correct the way you've been communicating with people, and hopefully you can begin to get your point across without anybody fighting one another. All right? So I'm saying to you that instead of saying things like, you never do this, you always do this, right? Stop doing that, right? Because the person will be telling you, that's not true. That's not true. Now, instead of them hearing what you're trying to say, now they're focused on, that's not true. They're going to defend themselves. Question, is that what you want? Are you trying to get the point across, or are you trying to get them defending themselves? So if you use phrases like, you'd never do this, you'd never do that, that's what you're going to get. You're going to get people who will disagree with you. They will even tell you, yesterday, did I do that? And then you are stuck. Then they may even tell you, on Wednesday of last week, did I do what you just told me now? They will even remind you about what they did and stuff. And then you're stuck. Now, when, for sure, maybe, most of the time they're doing this thing wrong that you're actually telling them. But instead of you to exaggerate, why don't you be truthful? Stop with the exaggeration. Say, you know what? I noticed that most of the time, sometimes you do apologize, but I noticed that most of the times you don't. Now, they can easily accept that. They can easily see that. But when you go to assumptions and you say something like, or you go to exaggeration rather, and you say something like, you never do this, you always do this, they're going to fight you back. They're going to defend themselves. So don't use that style of communications. All right, let's move on. Number 3, another mistake many people make is that they tell others what they should do. They tell others what they should do. That's a mistake. Stop saying, you should do this, you should do that. Now, some of you listening to me in your own culture, wherever you are watching me from, in your own culture, it could be in translating your vernacular language into English, you find yourself saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this. Well, guess what? That's the wrong way of communication. That's the wrong way of communicating with people. People don't like to be told what they should do. So saying, you should do this, you should do this, you should do this, is not the way to go. Stop commanding people what they should do. No, you don't talk to people like that. Now, there are ways, if you feel like there are things maybe they should consider, then tell them things like, you might want to consider this. You might want to consider this. Or you may say something like, hey, one possibility is this, right? Or you can ask them, have you thought of this, right? So when you present it that way, then they're likely going to look at your option and consider your option. But when you say something like, you should do this, you should do that, you're commanding somebody. And that's the wrong communication style right there. Don't talk like that. Or, in some cases, maybe what they could have done. So you said something like, you should have done this. You should have done that. Do you realize that anytime you talk to anyone that way, it's like you are blaming them. You're telling them that they did it wrong. You're telling them that they didn't do it well. Do you know that when you communicate with people like that, they'll fight you back? It's a mistake. You don't say, you could have done this, you should have done that, because that's like really putting them down. That's blaming them. That's saying, you did wrong. Oh my God, you got it wrong. No, there are other ways, right? So you could present something like, okay, next time you might want to consider this. And then they can say, you know what, you are so right. I didn't think about that. Thank you for telling me that. But when you're saying something like, oh, you should have done this, you should have done that, they're feeling bad, they're feeling like you are blaming them, they're feeling like you are putting them down. That's not the way to go. Now, I'm telling you this. Some of you, as I'm sharing these mistakes with you, you're realizing that, oh my God, I've been making a lot of mistakes. Well, what you can do is begin to practice what I'm teaching you now. You may not get it right overnight, but practice it until it becomes a habit in your life, right? You begin to do it the right way. Communications, if done the right way, you'll find out that even the most difficult people, they will be able to understand you. But the reason why many of us, it's difficult for us to have any decent conversation where we actually get somewhere. It could be between a wife and a husband. It could be between parents and children. It's because you are making all these mistakes. And it doesn't matter that it's your child you're talking to. You still need to do it the right way, right? If you do it the wrong way, you will not get the kind of response, the kind of cooperation that you want. You know, maybe somebody who is married is looking at this video right now, and you're saying, oh my God, I understand now why my wife or my husband always fighting back with me. Of course, if you're doing any of these things, they'll fight back. And you'll notice that your conversations, your communications never get anywhere. It's always ending up in a fight. Yes, because you are doing it wrong. Can I tell you this? Just because you have something on your mind to say does not mean you just say it anyhow. You have to learn the art of communication. You have to learn how to say something in a way that people will cooperate with you. Let me quickly digress and give you an example. Some years ago, this guy who was working with me, my assistant, he had bought an iPod and it wasn't working. And then he tried to return it to the store and they would not give him another one. And so he told me about the situation, and he asked me if I would go with him to, exchange the iPod. I said, okay, no problem. So I went with him. So when we got to the location, I said, you stay in the car. I will go in. Give me the iPod. So when I got to the store, I was already smiling. And so by the time I spoke to the owner, I just said, this is the receipt. This iPod was bought here, and this is the receipt. It's not working. If I can get another one. And I'm smiling. And so the man said, oh, okay, no problem. He took the iPod, went to the back, brought another one, and went to the car, and I gave it to him. He said, what? He said, what? He could not believe, because I was in that store for less than 1 minute, and I got a new iPod. He couldn't believe it. I said, my friend, there's a reason. When you are communicating with people, you smile. You don't frown. You need them to see what you are talking about, and then you go there like you are ready to fight somebody. Who wants to hear you? The fact that you come that way itself, they are ready for you, and they are ready to deny you whatever you're saying. But when you go with a smile, calm down, and you're pleasant. Oh, anybody wants to listen to anyone who's pleasant? Do you realize that even in my communication with you right now, I'm smiling? From time to time, even though I'm saying something serious, but from time to time, I will smile. There's a reason. I'm trying to capture you. I'm trying to get you to pay attention. Imagine if I'm frowning at you, and just frowning at you, be like, who's this? Why is he frowning at me? And then you turn it off. You see, these are little things that some of us don't realize. So you want to go and talk to somebody, even if they are wrong. For example, maybe somebody put something on the sidewalk, and it's your sidewalk, and you don't want them to put it on the sidewalk. You don't have to go with an attitude of you're ready to beat them up. You could go smiling. You could go relaxed. Say, oh, Mr. Such and Such, I noticed something on the sidewalk. You're still smiling, you know. Oh, that I'm not sure who put it there, but if you can help make sure that this place is clear. There's a way you talk. You talk with respect. You talk like you are not fighting anybody. You talk like we're all here together, we're all united and stuff. And of course, they will see your viewpoint and they will even apologize and say, oh, I'm so sorry. You know what? It must have been one of my children. Or I did it. You know what? I wasn't even thinking. I just dropped it there. I'm so sorry. It won't happen again. You didn't fight anybody. But I know people, they can never address anything peacefully, calmly. They think they must fight. They think they must, come with a bad attitude. That's why you never get anywhere in your conversations. Anyway, let me get back to these mistakes I'm sharing with you. All right, number four, mistakes you cannot afford to make when you are having a conversation with someone. Don't blame others for your feelings. So the mistake people make is that they blame others for their feelings. They blame others for their feelings. But I want to tell you, stop blaming others for your feeling. And stop accusing people. You don't accuse people in communications or in conversations. So let me give you an example. So let's say I said something and it made you feel embarrassed. So don't come to me and say, you embarrass me. Then I'm going to tell you, what do you mean? I didn't embarrass you. If you go and tell somebody, you did this to me, you did that to me. If you go to somebody and you say, you hurt me, they're looking at you like, who hurt you? I didn't hurt you. You disappointed me. What do you mean? I didn't disappoint you. You did this, you did that. No, mistake. Don't communicate with anyone like that. Now, I am not saying that you did not feel disappointed. I am not saying that you don't feel hurt. I'm not saying that you didn't feel embarrassed. But don't go accusing anybody that they did this or did that. Don't blame them for your feelings. So you're asking, so what should I do then? Because I feel really hurt right now. I feel really angry. So instead of saying, you make me angry, you can say something like this. Do you know that when you left without taking me with you, it made me feel hurt? Do you know that when you call out my name in the public, it made me feel embarrassed? When you do this, I felt this way. So now, guess what? When you tell somebody, when you shouted my name, I felt embarrassed. Now they will say, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to make you feel embarrassed. Because truth be told, sometimes the things people do that makes us feel the negative way we feel, they didn't do it with the intention that it will get that negative reaction or negative feeling in us, right? They didn't do it to make us feel that way. They just did not know that we will feel that way. And so when you tell somebody, when you left, when you call my name, when you did this, when you did that, I felt this, I felt this, I felt this. Do you know what they're going to do? They will apologize. They will not be defensive. But when you accuse somebody, you did this to me, you did that to me, that's accusation. They're going to defend themselves. They're going to fight back. How dare you tell me I did that to you? Me? I did that to you? What are you talking about? Now, both of you are fighting now. When all you needed to say was, hey, when you actually shouted my name. Now, they may be a loud person. You know, some people, they are loud, right? And some people, they are not private at all. All of their business is out. They talk about their business anyhow. But you are a very private person. And so somebody even mentioned that, oh, look at our sister here. She just turned 40. Oh, why do you have to tell my age? I didn't want them to know I turned 40. Right? Now, this other person who's talking about it, they don't care. They tell their own age anyhow. But you are private. And so when that person said that, it made you to really feel embarrassed. Well, so if you now go to them and say, you embarrass me, they'll tell you, I didn't embarrass you. What do you mean? Right? It's going to be a fight. So you can say, hey, when you said my age, I'm a very private person. And so when you said my age out loud like that, It made me feel really embarrassed. And they could say, "Oh my God, I didn't know you're gonna react like that. I didn't know it's gonna make you feel that way. I'm so sorry." Right? If you know how to communicate properly, you're gonna get a sorry out of people. You're gonna help them to see your viewpoint. But if you don't communicate properly, you're gonna get a fight out of people. And so this is extremely important. Don't say, "Well, who has time for all this nonsense you are talking about? I just want to say what is on my mind." You've been saying what is on your mind all this while, and you have been fighting everyone everywhere. By now, you should have thought that, I'm doing something wrong. I'm doing something wrong. Why is it that whatever discussion, whatever conversation I'm having with people, it never leads to any peaceful resolve? I've been doing something wrong. And what you've been doing wrong is what I'm telling you right now. And so if you begin to practice this, guess what? Your conversations will be better. Let me tell you one more. Don't challenge someone's character or integrity. So the mistake people make is this: they challenge somebody's character or they challenge somebody's integrity. So when you feel like what somebody has done is unprofessional, you feel like what they have done is unethical or wrong, and then you use those words. Say, "Oh, you're so unprofessional. You're so wrong. You're so unethical." Well, guess what? What they will start to do is to fight with you. Is to fight with you or disagree with you. But when you make statements like, this missing deadline it distracts us from our mission, or is inconsistent with what we have set as a goal. Now they can see that, right? You're not necessarily trying to say you are unprofessional, but you are saying, hey, when you miss that deadline, it's inconsistent with our core values. So they see your point, and they are saying, okay, let me change that, right? So there are ways you communicate without necessarily questioning their character or integrity. Let me give you a few more tips before I call it quits for this video. Now, sometimes when you want to communicate with somebody, you find out that you are emotionally charged. Maybe you are angry right now. When you are emotionally charged, it's not the best time to have a conversation. When you're emotionally charged, you're likely going to say things the wrong way. So sometimes what you need to do is to calm down, right? Just calm down. Calm down before having a serious conversation. When you know you are really angry, this is not the time to talk. This is the time to go and calm down, because any conversation you have out of anger or when you're emotionally charged is going to go wrong, because you're going to come the wrong way. You're going to use the wrong words. You're going to use the wrong approach because you are emotionally charged. It's better that whenever you want to communicate something, you're really mad right now. Calm down, calm down. Just go and calm down. Wait, maybe, sleep overnight. Tomorrow morning, deal with this. When you are calm, so that you can talk properly, logically, right? And you will not use the wrong approach. All right, very important. Some of us don't do that. The moment somebody does something that you don't like this, you are emotionally charged, you are angry, that's when you start talking. That's a mistake. Stop doing that. All right, another tip I want to give to you is this: talk about things as they come up. Now, on one hand, I said, when you are emotionally charged, this is not the time to have a conversation. But after you calm down, address it. Don't wait for months before you now address it. So I want you to see what I'm talking about now. Don't talk while you're angry, but don't also wait for months either. It's funny because some of us, we don't remember beyond 2-3 days. I know myself, for example, if there's something to talk about and you're telling me a week later, I already forgot it. So if you are bringing it up now and say, this and this and that, I'm like trying to remember what happened again. What are you talking about? How come you didn't say it the next day or something? So after you calm down, then talk about it, right? Talk about it as they come up. It's a good way. Don't wait till months later, years later. It's amazing how some people, they will not address something now. They're waiting for 2 years before they address it. Now, who's supposed to remember what happened 2 years ago? Just because your own brain works like that and you remember everything, you've kept a record of every wrong that people have done to you, doesn't mean everybody is like you, right? And by the way, that's a bad habit anyway, keeping record of wrongs. Another tip is this. This is very key, people. Listen to understand, not to respond. Listen to understand, not to respond. Do you know that many times when people are having a conversation, so you are talking and I'm listening because I'm ready to respond now. I want to give it back to you. I'm ready. I'm getting ready. This is a match. We are fighting here. Yes, say your own because I'm ready for my own. That's the wrong way of having a conversation. I don't care what it is. Listen to understand. So when they are sharing their viewpoint, they're telling you what happened, and all that stuff, listen to understand. Pay attention. Don't listen to respond. Don't be waiting and calculating and planning your response. No, just listen to understand. Get their viewpoint. See what they're saying. See what they felt. See why they did what they did. See what made them look at it that way. Understand where they're coming from. Do you know that even this point alone, if you practice it more, you realize that a lot of the things you did not understand, you begin to understand when people are communicating with you. So, same thing with those who you are talking to. If they will listen to understand, if everybody will listen to understand one another, there'll be less need for a fight. But when you are listening to someone because you are getting ready for a rebuttal, you're getting ready for a response, you will not understand what they are saying. And communication is about understanding one another. It's not just about talking, If I say something to you, it is important that you understand what I'm saying. And if you say something to me, it's important that I understand what you're saying. Because if we don't understand each other, we have not communicated. Communication, real communication, is that what I say to you, you understand. What you say to me, I understand. Now, let me quickly digress and say this. That's why it's a good practice to get feedbacks, right? Whenever you say something to somebody, always get a feedback. So, I told you something, then I'll ask you, all right, what did you understand? What did you just get from what I told you? Get their feedback. Let them repeat it back to you. So when they repeat it back to you, if they got it, you say, okay, you understand. Or if they did not get it, you say, no, that's not what I was saying. Let me rephrase it. Now, look for a different approach, a different example, a different analogy. Look for a different way to communicate what you're trying to say. And then ask them again. Tell me what you got from that. Repeat that often until they have said what you really said. And then you can say, okay, you understand me now. Because isn't it true that sometimes you say something to somebody, right? And they do not understand what you're saying. They think they understand. And you too, you don't get feedbacks. That's very risky. That means that you're just talking and talking. No guarantee that they understood you or not. Isn't that your goal, to be understood? So you should be patient enough to get feedbacks and to say, repeat to me what I just said to you. Let them repeat it to you so that you know that for sure they got it. And so when you know they got it, then we're on the same page now. Okay, we understood each other. And then you can move forward in this conversation. Very important. Listen to understand, not to respond. All right? Now, another very important tip is this. Reframe the situation as us versus the problem instead of me versus you. It's amazing. That's another thing that causes problems in conversations. It is me and you on the same team. And we want to resolve this issue that has come up against us. Don't make it seem me and you. Me against you. Me fighting you. No. Make it seem like me and you were on a team. It could be something both of you kind of disagreed on, and you want them to kind of understand why this viewpoint is important. Make them understand that it's not me versus you, it's us. This thing is coming up to divide us. This thing is coming us to challenge us. So how are we going to fight together against this thing, right? So let your partner that you're communicating with understand that it's me and you against this situation. So when they can see that way, then you can really get a solution from that conversation. All right. Another one is approach the situation from a place of curiosity instead of blame. Approach it from a place of curiosity instead of blame. So what is that? That's when you're actually asking them, please explain. I want to understand your viewpoint. Please explain to me, why did you say that? And why is it like that? Now, so you are curious. Because if you start blaming people, then, of course, again, they're going to fight back. Maybe you even disagree with what they're saying right now, but if you ask, and be curious why they're saying that, you may now find out that you may even have been wrong all along. Yes, you may find out that you have been wrong all along. At the end of the day, we are trying to look for a resolve. This is not about a fight. Your communication must never be about fighting, unless you are one of those people who have the spirit of fighting, and all you want to be doing all over town is fight people. But if you want to resolve things, right, have an approach where you are curious. You want to understand what's going on here, right? Now, another very important point is this. Remind yourself that being right isn't the most important thing. It's not about, I'm right, you're wrong. No, that's not the point. The point is, let's come together. So it's not, I'm not trying to prove how I'm so right. No, that's not, if that's how you have been approaching conversations and communications, you have been getting it wrong. It's not about who's right, who's wrong. It's about, let's come to a resolve here. Okay, let me understand you. You understand me. Okay, how can we compromise here? What can we do? How can we compromise this, right? And then you come with a compromise. And that's how you do it. So it's very, very important. Now, some of us don't like, when somebody tells you, hey, we got to talk. We have to talk. It makes you scared. Like, oh my God, what is it again? So, well, once you have been communicating and you've maybe addressed situations, from time to time, don't wait till they have something to tell you again. From time to time, you be the one to check and say, okay, are we good? Is there anything, anything bothering you, anything, whatever. So you are even the one checking, so that you don't have to wait till they have built up, and they have all those things, and all of a sudden they hit you with, we have to talk. And you're like, oh, Lord. And then you start avoiding that conversation, right? So you don't have to wait till all that time, right? Just from time to time, check to see how you're doing, how, you guys are, if it's a relationship situation, how things are going, right? So I hope that some of these tips will help you to communicate better. Remember, it's not about a fight. It's about understanding each other and coming to a resolve or a solution. So if you use these approaches I've shared with you today, I'm sure it will help your communications and conversations to be better than it's ever been. And if you realize that, wow, you've been making some of these mistakes, then stop making them. Correct these mistakes, right? So that you can have better relationships and you can find solutions to more issues in your life. All right, if you are watching my video for the first time, I am Femi Akojeno, and you can visit my website, www.femiakojeno.com. And I am a coach, and I coach on personal development, business development, ministry development, and many other areas, media, marketing, and more. So just go to my website for more information. And if you want to know when I'll be having the next Coming to America seminar or any of my motivational seminar or business seminar, go to the website as well, and you can get those information there. I would like to hear your thoughts on what I've shared with you today. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I'd like to hear your feedback. Do you think this is helpful? Do you think using this in your own relationship or conversations and communications will help it to improve and to be better? I'd like to hear your feedback. So let me know what you think. And of course, if you're watching me on YouTube, please go ahead and subscribe to my channel. If you're watching me on Facebook, please go ahead and like this page and make sure to share this. I'm sure it will help improve somebody else's conversations and communication. I want to thank you for taking time out to watch this video. Until next time, start communicating better. Thank you.